What it do, what it don't, what it will, what it won't. We are here back in the building for another episode of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. A few businessmen get together to discuss sports in a very entertaining fashion. We do it one way and one way only, and that's rough, rugged, and raw. We're gonna bring you sports. We're gonna bring you business. We're gonna bring you entertainment, and we're gonna do it this morning. So make sure you fasten the seatbelt. Make sure you pour you a nice glass of it is after 12. It could be whatever you want to pour. And make sure you tune in for the Ball Hog Sports Talk. But no further ado, boys and girls, cats and rats, dogs and frogs. Let's get moving through the Ball Hog Sports Talk. Let's go.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Cause this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B Brown, ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're gonna give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go.
Once again, it's on. Once again, it's on a Sunday. I am blessed to be in front of this microphone, and I get to do so and share the space with the man, the myth, the legend. Thou shall be intergalactically known and respected as. When you say it with some bass in your chest. Say it with some reverence when you say it. But say it just like this. The Big Flo Show's in the building. What's up, Big Flo?
Man, what's good? I'm over here, witness protection in an unspecified location. Getting ready to give you guys all I got today.
Let's do it, man. You know, it's Sunday. Everybody's counting down. Everybody got new fantasy. Hopefully, they got their fantasy football rosters locked in. We'd be remiss if we didn't start today. Today's episode is going by the title of Sports Dad. And I know we're going to focus on the dads, but we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge, and I did so with the pink hat. It is October. And when you watch football today, you will see a lot of pink. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and any dad, any man, any of us in this amazing country on the planet really have had to deal with breast cancer. So let's take a very brief but meaningful moment of silence in Breast Cancer Awareness Month as we start off. I wear my pink. Let's make sure we pay respect to all of those who have unfortunately gotten bad news, and all of the mothers and sisters and grandmothers and all the lives that unfortunately have been lost because of breast cancer. While we celebrate breast cancer awareness, we want everyone who has been negatively impacted by that tragically in one way or another to know that we support them. So let's do a moment of silence.
Let's come out of that moment of silence with some applause for those who beat it. Because there's a lot.
Amen, man. That's on the other side, and that is the celebration. That's why you see the pink and not only have beat it, but are currently beating it. The pink is for y'all, and know that you got a few sports dads and the rest of the country behind you. So shout out to Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I look pink. I look good in pink anyway, but I really love seeing the pink. You know, the dark skin.
Like you should be wearing pink. That's all that is. I don't know if you look pink, but you look like pink is your color. You know,
well, we're going to start off this show by, I know you messing with me, but we're going to dabble in it because our first topic of Sports Dads is what we're going to do today is celebrate like the differences. There are differences. I didn't put sports parents, sports family. I put sports dad. There's some differences when it comes to that conversation on the way home as a sports dad. You remember that very fundamental key to win. One of the keys to winning that Coach Holtz would outline was out hit. There is something unique about the ride home as a sports dad when your son's team got out hit. And while the amazing women in our lives, the mothers, the wives, the significant others, the girlfriends, whoever you are with in that ride home might not appreciate just how profound that is. But as a dad, you are just like, man, we got out hit, we got punked. We're talking about football, but we're not. Am I overreacting? Because yesterday, man, my team got out hit on the youth football side. We got out hit, and it felt like someone had taken something out of my the side of my body. I was just so bothered by the fact that we got out hit. What is that about sports, Dad, and how offended? As though like we are really offended when we get out hit. Tell me I'm not wrong, Big Flo.
It's hitting is a decision, right? Some people are just wired that way, but hitting is a decision. You could turn people down, decide you don't want to be a part of it, and just let people run through your face. We got out hit yesterday too. Went out there and watched my son play. Speaking of sports, Dad, and I'm all in. My son didn't dress, and then he played home.
And yet you still went to the game.
Still went to the game.
Let's not skip over that. To be a sports dad can be expensive. There is some sacrifice you got to make. Your son didn't dress, and you still went to Pittsburgh. Was it a home game?
Erie, away game.
Away game. You went to an away game, and your son didn't dress. I digress. Sorry to interrupt.
Full disclosure, for a long time, we held out hope that he would dress. And then we decided when he wasn't going to dress, we're just going to go support the team anyway. We're trying to be all in, and do whatever. But I'm a sports fan before I'm a sports dad, before I'm a sports, whatever you want to call me. I'm a sports fan. And watching our team just get out hit we had a real poor defensive performance. I think offensively we played well. But you hear the term who wants it more, right? And that's where the hitting comes in. Who wants it more? Who's in there trying to make a play? Every play you run up to tackle somebody, you can just grab them or you can bang them, right? And sometimes you got to grab them, throw them out of bounds, try to preserve yourself. But every so often, you got to make sure that dude knows you're there, right? You can think about how he's playing the game. He can't just play every if it was flag, that's why everybody looks real sweet in 7-on-7 because they can dance and juke and they got all this stuff.
Draws. I call it football and draws.
Football draws football. But if I can touch you, now you got to think about it. But I have to make that full contact. I got to remind you that we're not playing 7-on-7. I got to remind you it's pads here. We hitting here, right?
Does that make us crazy? Because there is this difference, whatever we want to call it, Mars and Venus. But there was a young man in my on my team last game yesterday. So he's got a punt return, great punt return. But at the end of this punt return, he makes what you said, a decision, and runs he's one of our smaller kids, but faster kid, and does not like contact. Let's be clear. But he ran out of bounds instead of trying to cut back, and we were all looking like, and then the other kid just literally like touched him out of bounds. He looked like looking at the ref like he wanted a penalty for being just touched, not tackled, touched. And I'm looking at this thinking, it's not a big deal until it's a big deal. And as a sports dad, when it comes to the decision that you make to engage in contact or not, I would argue that those who are not wired that way, there are some people in football that are wired. My best friend, Kareem Douglas White, love him to death. He was wired for contact. He loves contact. He was born to play middle linebacker. Not everybody's wired that way. I would argue that those who are not wired that way, myself included, that's why I chose to play on the other side of the ball and try to get touchdown dances.
Outside the hashes.
It's even more remarkable when we make the decision to engage and we understand that we will not be out hit. Those who do not make that decision, you're going to hear it on the ride home because the sports dad is waiting. Now, sports moms, grandmas, aunties, and everybody else, or sports dads don't believe the statement that I just made. They have an issue with it. Know that it is about being out hit, but it's something more. There's something more in that we're trying to get our kids to understand the decision that you make to engage in something that no human being, no sane human being, let's talk about Kareem White being wired that way. There are other people that are wired that way. I'll say it. They're not saying to be wired to want to hit. But even with all sanity, it's bigger than that. It's about life and engaging in stuff that you don't want to do, like waking up, going to work every damn day, decisions that you make. I'm trying to make myself feel better about how upset I was about us being out hit yesterday.
No, it's
Tell
a
me I'm not
lesson in
crazy,
the
Big
game.
Flo.
No, you're not. Marshawn Lynch said it up again. He's like, he goes over, over and over and over and over and over and over and over
Not too
again.
many people built like that.
You're not built like that. You eventually you cave and you can see it. You know, when any kid that played with me, they would know. You know, our goal wasn't to win the game. Our goal wasn't to shut you out. Our goal was to make you quit. And I put that in there. Kindergarten, first, second grade, make them quit. The kids would say on 3, make them quit, because I wanted to teach these kids to be killers in life. I want you to make the other team know I don't want to be here anymore.
You're saying that so nonchalant, like people, and this is why I wanted to put this on full display. Like we are who we are, right? Like you just said that so nonchalant. There are judgmental people in the corporate world, in the non-football world. There are other sports families that listen to these conversations and think we're crazy. But I do think that there's something here.
I will say this is the time where sometimes kids don't realize what's inside the story, what's for everybody. So at least 2 or 3 times in my coaching career, I had a kid run to the side to my side and say, "They're quitting, coach, just like you said, they're quitting." And I'd be like,
that was betwixt us.
That's for the huddle. You can't be out here calling them quitters. Just like you said, coach, they're quitting.
You told us they were going to quit.
You told them they were going to quit and they quit. And the other kid hears it. And you know, when you already got some quit in you, you hear it, you try to act like you don't hear it, but you give it that little, like he noticed.
What's up, my God, brother, man? Miami might be for real. Look, we as Notre Dame fan, I need Miami to keep on rocking, baby.
Miami and Texas A&M.
I can't
throw up that little sign. I don't even know how to do that little sign thing. Birdman, whatever they do. But yeah, you keep winning, buddy. Because you keep winning, we keep winning.
Keep winning. Hey, I will say this about FSU. They didn't quit. They didn't quit last night. They had some fugazi points at the end that helped out their cause. But great game, man. It's good to see Miami, Florida State, that game being prime time. We talked about Florida State messing up the money because Florida State lost to Virginia the previous week. And if Florida State would have went into that game undefeated last night, it would have been must-see TV. But it was as close to being must-see TV as Miami, Florida State has been in a long time. So great game, man. Shout out to you. Look, I'm Notre Dame through and through, but my second team will always be the U. So I like to see when the U is playing well. I did want to get to Coach Prime, man, because the ultimate sports dad, right? He has helped both Shedeur and Shiloh navigate the waters of being youth, high school, college, and now into the pros. Coach Prime yesterday, there is at one point him walking onto the field with only one shoe. And he addresses it. He's got one shoe on, which as a sports dad, we know how that is, man. Your feet start hurt, you got to take that shoe off. And so not a big deal. Plenty of black families have seen that. Relieve yourself of the pain of that shoe. But in the press conference after the game, the post-game press conference, he acknowledges that he's having a lot of pain and he feels as though he's having more blood clots. So let's make sure we keep Coach Prime in prayer. And I'm hoping the best for him. Like, I really am. From a sports stat perspective, though, Coach Prime is going through some of the stuff that we go through. And I'll get to my own little thing. I want my Blair football. I'll get to my own little thing because Blair got the bone beat out their head on Friday night. I'm talking, it was ugly in that thing, boy. I wanted to throw in the towel. Throw it in the towel. It's supposed to be an exhibition. They whooped up on my boys' team, but it is what it is. But as a dad, I can relate to Coach Prime having to deal with now Joe Flacco being replaced by Dylan Gabriel. Now, we at 2 minutes, in the 2-minute mark, game's going on right now in London. Cleveland's playing Minnesota. We were still winning. And we were winning 17-14 at the 2-minute mark. I'm afraid to look at what's happening now. Don't be a spoiler, anybody. But the reality that they moved on from Joe Flacco, put Dylan Gabriel in, and then Kevin Stefanski, our head coach, was very clear to say that Joe Flacco will be the backup. This Coach Prime situation with Shedeur, no matter how high profile Coach Prime is, it just brings you back to the reality of being a sports dad. That's got to be tough to watch your son, who you think could go in there and help, be passed over for the second spot. He's still the emergency quarterback.
Yeah,
what do you think about this whole thing? And look, you can be brutal. It's my team, but I'll take all brutality at this point.
Right now, Vikings lost. Vikings won. Browns lost. So you snatched victory from the jaws of defeat.
That's how you wanted to do it. That's you know what? You should seek help, bro. That was you took way too much pleasure in saying that.
I mean, we report. We're a news outlet. We're a part of the media. So
I said we was up at the 2-minute mark. We lost. We really did.
21-17.
Oh gosh. Anyway, all right. So as a dad, you see this Coach Prime, not Dylan Gabriel.
That's the only problem. That's the only mistake you made. You was up, but you weren't up enough.
We were up long enough.
Like 8.
But Coach Prime should have a beef with what's going on because Stephen, I keep messing up his name, Freudian slip. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, was very adamant to point out that Shedeur was going to be the third quarterback and Joe Flacco was going to be the second. It just seems strange.
It does seem it's strange in a lot of ways. But then every time I look up, I feel like Shedeur and Dion are saying some of the right things, So I don't know what it is. I don't know why they drafted paying the man money. I don't know why you draft a guy and you have like animosity towards him. There's other people to draft. But I know that there was some pushback on drafting him. So I think it's a matter of maybe they don't like Coach Prime. Maybe they don't like the way he did his pregame interview stuff. But we saw him play well in the preseason. I don't think we saw Dylan
until the last game when he was with primarily. I don't think any of those young men ended up being or making the final roster. So, but here's my thing as a sports dad, because we've all been there and we look at it and Shedeur is going to be analyzed for everything he does, for everything he says, or even what he doesn't say. Right? Dan Orlowski and I think Ryan Clark really took issue with his silent interview where he was just pretending to mime. And I guess you get to that point because whatever I say is going to be taken out of context. Whatever I say is going to be used against me in the court of law. And he got to the point where he found it laughable to mouth words and say nothing. It's got to be a tough spot to be in. And I'm trying to relate as a sports dad, not as Coach Prime, not as Dion, the Hall of Famer, but just as a sports dad. When you see this and you know your son can help and doesn't get the opportunity,
sucks.
How do you? Yeah, it sucks, man. It really does. But there's so much that is out of your control that you got to just sit back and watch. As a Browns fan, it has been alleged that we, at some point when we're, 3-11, that they're just going to throw Shedeur out there for no other reason than to put butts in the seat, to make the Browns clickbait worthy, to sell more merchandise, to bolster the economy around the Cleveland Browns, and to hell with the football part of it. Again, it's been alleged. Those are just conspiracy theories, but it's hard to argue that he can't be the second quarterback, right? So if Dylan Gabriel gets hurt, we're putting Joe Flacco back in, the guy that you just took out. I don't know, man.
And Gabriel, I haven't paid demonstration, but Gabriel hasn't done anything, right? He hasn't.
He played well today. He played well today. Not well enough, but he played well today. So I'm not taking anything away from Dylan Gabriel. Well enough should not be good enough for the NFL. So I'm also not reducing the standard. But what I'm saying is this, is to go out of your way to say that the backup quarterback is going to be the guy that you just replaced. And the backup quarterback is every bit of 40 years old. And Joe Flacco seems a bit calculated. And as a sports dad, when you feel the situation is calculated and that it has been designed to work out a favor for your own child, that's a delicate balance, bro, where you want to be respectful of the fact that coaches make decisions. I'm not at practice. You want to be respectful of the fact that this coach, in this case, Kevin Stefanski, is making personnel decisions because he's got more information. And also your obligation to make sure that nobody mistreat your baby. That's my child. It's got to be a slippery slope here for Coach Prime. I'll give you last word on that, and then we'll personalize it because we've both had that slippery slope.
I'm going to kind of switch over. So for Coach Prime, I do think that he's public enough that he has to have a platform that he's going to stand on, and it's not just about his kids. So he's going to come forward and make his comments. They're probably a little too polarizing, but that's part of his persona, and he's unapologetic about that. That's part of how he became successful at turning the program around in Colorado, so to speak, and all the different things as being himself. So he's using the same thing with the son and saying things he believes. Now, he might need to be a little more strategic, but some people are poo-pooing that and say, why are you being strategic? You need to just come through and just be a bull in the china closet. So I think that's there. I think on our side, kind of transitioning into what we do, if I may, and we talked about this pregame, like, do you call as dad? Do you call your kid as a problem? Do whatever. I find
I'll set it up. I'm just gonna set it up. I'm gonna tee it up. Similar situation. Your son is on a team. The team is struggling. The kid or kids, plural, young people playing for your son or getting more opportunities are struggling.
Yeah.
And they just don't give your son a chance. And again, we're not at practice. The coach has more information, right? We're gonna be a bit subjective, right? Because it's our child. So you balance that, you take a deep breath, you walk around, you seek therapy, you do all the things as dads to fight off that natural inclination to protect. And then you get to a point where objectively, I'm at the point, hell no, this ain't gonna work. I gotta say something. How do you balance those two?
You know, if you look at normal society, right? Majority of major league professional athletes have what? To speak on their behalf.
They have agents.
They have agents, right? And the reason why you have an agent is because sometimes you have to separate the emotion from it and you have the conversation. If a player goes and says, hey, coach, I've been doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm not saying players shouldn't try to start off like that, but you can be the bad guy as a parent, or you can come to somebody and say, hey, listen, I want to have a conversation with you about this situation. And whatever, I just don't want to reflect poorly on my son, but I'm asking questions. If you handle it the right way, you're going to put that person in a situation where they're at least thinking about what you're talking about when the opportunity comes up. And I said that if you...
The same thing is true. They be thinking about if you put hands on their ass too, but I digress.
But if you have your son do it, you know, we did this. We had a volleyball. I wrote a letter to an email to the parents, the coaches, and said, hey, listen, I just got questions. And I asked questions humbly. I kept the attitude out of it, did whatever. And the coaches have actually pulled my daughter out of practice. Hey, I got a letter from your dad. I've never had a letter written in that way before. Now, I wish it was a happy ending, like everything got fixed. It didn't, but they did not look at it as negative, and we definitely had a better relationship after writing the letter than we did before.
Okay.
Conversely, there was another parent that wrote the letter in her daughter's name and sent it off. But the same venom that the parents have, they just put the daughter's name in it. Just said, "My daughter's asking you these questions,"
Okay.
and she shit on that daughter the whole year, the whole season. She was shit on that girl
So it
because
wasn't received well
I
because
just think it becomes confrontational. I mean, you have two kids that are too young to be talking to adults about stuff unless it's super constructive. But if it's a matter of, hey man, I ain't playing this position and I think I should be playing this position and this is messed up and we were getting our ass whooped and I think we should go do it. That has to come from the parent. But
right.
I think there's more people who regret not speaking up than regret speaking up if they've handled things correctly.
Yeah, and I guess I bring it to this forum because there's the role of advising or being the air quote agent, hired or not, paid or not. You are their agent. You're your child's agent,
And you pay
and
to be their agent, by the way.
right. and,
Opposite.
and then and then there's this other role of being a dad, a parent, but we're specific to dad right now as providers, protector. There's this other role that you gotta prepare them for life. And I tell my boys all the time, a man is treated the way he allows himself to be treated. And I don't mean man generally, the biblical mankind. I mean, I'm gender specific talking about men.
Women
And
too, but
as
that's right.
say again.
Same goes for women.
Well,
They get treated the
absolutely,
way.
but I think there's a conversation that is had out of my earshot. My mom, my sisters, and anybody, any woman here, my wife has had that is separate. I don't have that conversation. I'm saying conversation specific to young men, and that part, like the bridge from all right. Let me not get too in the weeds about the sports part, but then the responsibility to make sure they're prepared for life. And that's the balance that I'm really trying to. I've got to deal with it. We all have to deal with it. And I think, dads and moms don't need to address it the same way, don't need to have the same response mechanisms. But this is for the dads. What do you do?
I
And
think
that's
you can
where
have
we
it
are.
both ways. I think you have both ways. I think you can speak up and be an advocate for somebody, and you can also teach that person how to, son or daughter, teach that person how to speak up for themselves. But there's a fine line that needs to be done. You know what I mean? Like because of how things are received from the youth, and they already looked at as prima donnas. But you and I both have the luxury of experiencing life. So when you talk to a coach that's a little older, hopefully, and you're older and you're having a conversation, there's some understanding stuff there that they can't bullshit a bullshitter the same way that they can bullshit your kid. You know what I mean? And turn your kid's words into insubordination and then decide this the reason why I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do is because of that conversation, not because of the fact you called it out. So there's a little to be said for that.
Switching topics, but really not. Kyren Lacy, the young man from LSU that had what seemed to be a budding NFL career,
Absolutely.
got into, they were calling it a hit and run at one point.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. A situation, the whole world sort of turned their back on him in a sense, right? Like, this dummy, like you gotta.
He became
We
a
all
cautionary
jumped
tale.
to conclusions. We jumped to conclusions. We did.
Uh-huh.
The young man ultimately ended up taking his own life, died by way of suicide. And now his attorney is coming with some really damning evidence when it comes to that police department, some really damning evidence when it comes to the procedure and how evidence was collected and the witness and how essentially you would almost call it tampering where there was some very leading instructions. The police officer leading the witness to essentially blame Kyren Lacy, and now he's a bit vindicated. So as a sports dad, like it's like you look at that, and that's like the ultimate tragedy, right? Like these young athletes have so much pressure on them to begin with. And as sports dad, that's why I made it about dads. That's why I started off admitting how crazy I am at times on that ride home, because I made it about sports dads. The reason that hurt, like it hit to the core, is because, again, how do you strike the balance? The pressure that we put on these young people, these young athletes, especially now that there's money involved. Name, image, and likeness is up the ante when it comes to the pressure involved with this navigating youth, high school, college, and for the select few, professional sports. To see a young man take his life when he felt as though that dream was no longer a reality, and that the justice system, because he pled his innocence until literally the day of his death, and now we see that it wasn't just lip service, that indeed he truly was innocent of what he was being charged. Well, it looks as though he was innocent of what he was being charged and accused of. I have no other recourse to just say, damn. All sports dads, we all need to look at that and say, let's make it a better conscious effort of balancing. And I'm not blaming his dad for it. I'm saying, like, the mounting pressure that this kid is that close to the dream that we have talked about since we were 6 or 7 years old, and then faced with seemed to be a situation that undermined that. It did undermine it. At least the path he was going, it absolutely undermined it. But to then end in him taking his own life, there is a little more fragility there. Say again?
That's the head scratcher for me. You know you didn't do it. We've seen proof that you didn't do it.
Oh man, Jay Crit. What up, Jay Crit?
Jay Crit back in
I ain't seen
the house. But how does it drive you to kill yourself? I don't know. Now the question I have is, what should be the punishment for the police officer? You know, you're an attorney, so you know that sometimes even if the results of your actions are unexpected and unintended, you still get held for them because if you broke the law to do it. Obviously,
if you knew or you should have known that could have ended in something this tragic, right? Or just the process itself. There's this constitutional criminal procedure. The Constitution protects all of us. It does. When we are pulled over, when there is any, questioning that could lead to your arrest, we're protected by the Constitution. The Constitution protects us to be able to face our accuser. The Constitution protects us from these procedures that you want it to be done justly. And it seems as though, just based on recent disclosures, that unfortunately, Kyren Lacy, his rights were violated. In the sense that you don't lead a witness to provide the account that you want them to provide. But as the sports dad in me, I'm like, the whole world is against these young people. While we're celebrating the games, right? I'm going to the games and rooting our kid on, and we're taking them to the training sessions, and we're making sure they eat right, they sleep right, they're doing the calendar. We're celebrating this journey. There's an entire population of people, and it looks like this police officer might have been in that population that is hoping and praying, and in this case, even maneuvering to do whatever he needs to do to make sure that dream never comes true. And that is the reality. I told our kids, like, the greatest lie, I said this yesterday before our game, the greatest lie ever told to young people is that life is fair. That's a lie. Life is unfair. And this tragic situation just brings that statement into full focus. It's like, life is just, it isn't fair. Jake Crit asked, we appreciate you guys. Anybody that's watching, I know it's Sunday, the game's about to come on. We about to wind down here in a minute, but we ask you every week, humbly, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a phone. Tag anyone you know, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel of the podcast. Jay Crit asked, and I love this question from the live audience. He asked, does there need to be coaching for sports parents to help them traverse their kids' sports career? And I don't know about coaching, but we're working on, it's not ready to be, I said it now, but working with families to help them and be a consultant for them to make better decisions. Absolutely. Because most people don't know what they don't know. Right. And too many athletes are being swooped into this sort of, tornado of misinformation, right? Everybody who's around them just doesn't know what they don't know. And all of a sudden, when the tornado is done, it spits out a product that could have been much better had there been a little more preparation. So that's how I'd answer that. I don't know how you answer it.
We could be training for sports parents. I think that the curriculum would be endless. I think you'd have a fresh crop of parents that want to do it every time they could go through it. As long as you have a couple good speakers, you bring in Balls Daddy. What's his name? Lonzo
Balls. What's the dad's name? You got Lonzo, you got Mello, you got Jello. What is the dad's name? That's crazy.
Mr. Ball. You bring Mr. Ball in. You bring in. You gotta have Mr. St. Brown. He gotta come in.
Oh, you gotta have him.
He's the closer. You got to have a lot of parents, a lot of dads and moms come in there and have these conversations with people. People be all over that.
Yeah, LeVar is the dad. LeVar. Yeah. I think they would be all over. You might be on something there, Jay Crit. If you think about why we started coaching, I've talked about coaches, fake ass coaches on the youth football level, but it don't stop at youth football. It's high school. There's some coaches at the collegiate level too. There's some coaches on the pro level too. Let's be clear. But the reason you started coaching way back when Widow Wedge started playing football that's my play on Little Wedge, is you wanted to make sure that your son wasn't negatively impacted by coaches, people that really didn't know what they were doing. You wanted to make sure your son learned to play the game the right way and understood the safety that is important in this dangerous game. True or not true?
Absolutely true. I got my first coaching job just watching other people. My son was in the group, but it wasn't really him. There was some D linemen working. My son was a skinny kid back then. Still a skinny kid, but he was like some D line, O line working. And I saw a kid block somebody else by turning his shoulder sideways and drive blocking the guy, right? Like I just showed you. And I said to the coach, I said, hey, listen, you give me that kid for a weekend, I'll teach him to use his hands. It'd be great. He's like, why don't you come work with the staff? I got him work with staff, and the rest is history. But to answer your question, I've had many friends say, hey, we're moving. I'm not going to coach. I get there and put it there. I said, I'll give you a half a season to a season before you're like, oh, hell no, I got to go be a part of this. So, yeah, I wanted to give back to my son and supervise. It gave me a great thing to do. At the time, I really got fulfillment. I'm teaching kids sports, and I coached baseball, basketball, football, and wrestling. And the only one I know anything about is football. But, I went out there and I just wanted to be a part of it. I wanted the memories to be part of that too, with me and my child. And I wanted to get to know his friends. There's a lot of good benefits to it, but that's how I got into coaching.
Awesome. And that's what makes you a great sports dad. I'll ask you, because you brought up LeVar Ball, you brought up John St. Brown. You got, Mr. Williams, Venus and Serena's dad.
Yeah.
You've got who would you say is the best sports dad? And I asked the audience that too. You think of sports dad in its purest sense, someone who is in the trenches, boots on the ground, doing the trainings. And you and I are excluded from this because, the obvious answer is, me. And then you could be second, Not no photo finish. I'm talking about you a deep second. Who would you say comes to mind when we think of sports dad? Like, they did it right. They laid the groundwork.
I think there's the Hall of Fame more than there is the best.
All right, so give me the Mount Rushmore. How many we give Mount Rushmore? 4?
don't
Let's
know.
go 4.
Let's go 4. I gotta say, here's the issue. I want to put Tiger Woods there on top. All right, I want to put him on top because of how accomplished Tiger Woods was and did whatever, but he only did one. So it's kind of hard for me to put him. But then if let me give you 4.
You're starting with your number 1 is you say Mr. Woods.
I would say either Mr. Woods or Mr. Williams, and Mr. Williams is going to get it. As I just talked myself into it, he gets the edge because he did it twice.
My number 1 is, I know it's going to be controversial, but I'm going Coach Prime. Coach Prime, as a Hall of Famer, needed to coach youth and high school football. He needed that like he needed a hole in his head. Remember, he was still doing the Fox broadcast. And I don't know what they pay, but I'm going Coach Prime, number 1. That's my number 1.
How could you put him ahead of Serena, for instance?
I think that Mr. Williams did a phenomenal job. And I don't know if you saw the movie. Was it King Williams? Whatever it's called. I think he did a phenomenal job picking a sport that he saw opportunity. It's like being the one black Republican, right? As a politician. While all the black people might not like you because they look, oh, he's Uncle Tom, he's a sellout. Man, that's great job security to be the one black Republican, right?
Yeah.
Like you ain't gonna that seat is not gonna be hotly contested.
As long as
right?
you want to clown black folks, they will put a microphone in your face.
Yeah, right. Like Candace Owens is genius in ways, right? So you look at some of the anyway.
Considering she started off as a liberal blogger,
right? Like I digress, right? But I bring that up as an analogy to say, I think that Mr. Williams did a phenomenal job knowing that he had athletic daughters, putting them in a sport that they were going to, more times than not, be the only black tennis players. And if he could harness that athleticism in that sport, he'd have something special. So I just think he was very sage in seeing the opportunity. Coach Prime did it in a sport that he's a Hall of Famer. It's really hard for those young men to live up to the expectations. And you could argue one way or another, but like that's impressive. And he went all in. He gave up his own livelihood in broadcasting. He navigated a space where he could be the protector and the provider for them through Jackson State and Colorado, and did it in a way that was always scrutinized, always questioned.
If you go Mr. Williams and you go with Earl Woods, is it Earl, right?
Earl Woods, yep.
Earl Woods. Earl wasn't a great golfer. He didn't come from some professional background. And his son is the best golfer in the history of the game. The Williams sisters, as a family, no comparison. But Serena, best golfer in the history, tennis player in the history of women's tennis. And he wasn't a tennis player. So but Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame gene pool. He raised his kids with all that money and all that opportunity, and neither one of them scratched the surface to be considered the best of anything. They're good. They're in the NFL.
We agreed that Shedeur should have been a first rounder, though.
He should have been, but he's not going to be. He's not going to be in the conversation ever of being the best.
No. But a first rounder at quarterback.
But I'm just saying, the best. Tiger Woods was the best golfer for 12 years in a row. Didn't take any. I don't know how many weeks it was, but in a row, didn't take any weeks off as number one.
Does Coach Prime make your four? So you've got Earl Woods, you got King Williams. Who's your other two then? And I got recency bias with Coach Prime. Coach Prime
I gotta say Mr. Ball. As much as I don't like so Mr. Ball.
You mentioned John St. Brown, but I don't know if that's. He went 3 for 3. One of the kids I don't think made the NFL.
Two got to college. Oh, 3 got
All
to college.
All 3 got to college. All 3 played in college.
NFL.
True
I
native.
would say Deion until Deion's kids produce at the level that St. Brown's above him. And St. Brown kind of. I gotta give St. Brown. I don't know. He might be too because he was intentional with his. He went and got
unapologetic about it.
Unapologetic. He said
he said you can't go marry a rut. He talked about women being small
elephants
women.
don't make a giraffe. He said you got two elephants. He says mom got big feet and big chin. He said, ain't no wrong with a Bigfoot woman. I gotta. I actually wish he'd stop giving the game away. I wish that
gonna create a whole different gene of kids.
Man, stop giving that game away.
I will say this because a dad who would not have made that Mount Rushmore is Niko's dad.
Todd Marinovich.
Niko I in Tennessee. His dad went to Tennessee to get more money while they were making their playoff run. Bad timing because they got the bone beat out their head in that college football playoff game. But everybody, including us, made fun of Niko. Yesterday, or Niko's dad, basically just figured out a way to get out the money. Yesterday, Niko's dad was vindicated, man. They whooped up on Penn State, a top 10 team. And Niko's dad, unfortunately for James Franklin, but Niko's dad got the last laugh yesterday. A winless UCLA team beats a top 10 Penn State team, and Niko's dad is right back in the conversation, baby, in the top sports dad. If Niko I figures his way out of this, and UCLA resurrects, he's got two kids there. Other kid transferred from, I think, Maryland. So his other kids at UCLA too. But Niko I's dad is back in business, baby. What say you?
I say that was a great game. It was a hell of a win. You get that a lot when you fire the coach and the other team don't get a chance to prepare. But I don't want to take anything away from him, but that just happens a lot. Is like that transitional game goes up or down. I still think you never know. I don't know how much money he got from UCLA.
Considerably less than what he was asking for in Tennessee, which is why everybody made him the meme of the butt of the memes and the jokes. He got considerably less than he was asking for in Tennessee.
I think he'd have been better off at Tennessee being a good quarterback.
Oh, I like this one. Archie Manning. All right, that brings us back to yesterday's performances. Arch Manning, although he threw for 298, he just looks overwhelmed, man. Like the game is moving too fast.
Many bad passes at the wrong time.
My
little godson running butt naked down the field with his hand in the air, and you overthrow the man.
But I'll tell you what, man. What's up, Jason Curry, my guy? I forgot he's out there in LA now.
Penn State
game. Jersey bred, baby, out there in LA.
Was it out here or was it in LA? It was in LA, yeah. Because they said they tried to.
If that was at home, they would have fired him on the spot, bro.
You know what I thought was hilarious is they say UCLA tried to storm the field but didn't have enough people at the game. The internet's undefeated.
Undefeated. Yeah. But no, it was out there. James Franklin had a very tough loss the week before at home, overtime against Oregon. Still in the mix, still with job security, still being questioned, can he win the big one? But then to go on the road the next week, and he said, hey, they just look lethargic. They didn't look ready to play, and that's on me. He's saying all the right things, but he also could be writing his farewell letter. James Franklin, I'm all for black employment. I love to see the brothers coaching, but we might be -1 at the end of this year because James Franklin still got Ohio State in front of him. He's still got a tough schedule in that Big Ten, and that's what we're seeing now is that on any given Saturday with the new conference realignment, like it's weird to see UCLA play against Penn State, but that's what this is now. It's weird to see Texas play Florida, but you in the SEC now, Arch. 2 tough losses by 2 highly ranked teams, but Niko I is back on the ballot for Father of the Year. He's back on the ballot for Sports Dad of the Year. Go ahead, Niko. Niko is about 6'5", 130 pounds. So I was upset by that, him asking for all that money. But Niko's eyes dad has done what we started off this show talking about. He has created a situation where he's going to do whatever is right for Niko. He's going to be an advocate. And so while the Tennessee Vols faithful and everybody who rushed to judgment, seeing that he was asking for a lot of money, and in doing so, asking for an increased payment, contrary to their initial agreement at Tennessee. What else would you do as the dad? You strike while the iron's hot, and you try to get some of that bread. So we'll see what it is. Niko, you need a lot more wins. Just like all the letters in your last name, you need a lot more wins, dog, before I can really put dad back in the mix. But I just want to at least say, to beat Penn State, a top 10 team, while there's undefeated and there's completely defeated, they were winless. They were completely defeated. It says something about the kids' resolve.
I sure did.
Right on. All right, we're going to go home with this, man. Ball Hog Spotlight moment. Mark Sanchez. You talk about being a bad day. When they say, how you get fired on your day off? Mark Sanchez might have had the worst day of his life. Worse than the butt fumble. Mark Sanchez gets into it with a 69-year-old trucker. You would think that would be the end of the story. But no, this altercation led to Mark Sanchez being stabbed a few times.
Critical condition.
He was supposed to be doing the Indianapolis game today. He obviously won't be doing that. And being arrested for some form of criminal battery. It don't get no worse than that. Mark Sanchez, if we had a donkey today, he would get it. But man, how the mighty have fallen has to be the most interesting story of the weekend. I'll give you last word before we get out of here. Anything? We already acknowledged Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We know the NFL games are kicking off. My Browns figured out a way to lose across the pond. We both have our things going on with our sons and trying to make that balance of being a sports dad. And you got your daughter as well. I've got my younger son as well. That balance. Is there anything else we want to leave the people with before we get out of here for the week?
No, I want to shout out college football for teams, upsets, teams coming out of nowhere. Teams finally getting there. And I wait till I get my money right. Teams coming out here get their money together and bring us people. So, as a fan, I think the parity. I haven't been able to see as many games as I'd like to see because of prior engagements. But
sports dad, because of my sports dad commitment.
Yeah. But I just love seeing teams come back and win. I wish they wouldn't. We didn't have to play two of them at Notre Dame. But if I will predict this, let those teams keep winning out. Notre Dame's going to be in the teens this week. They were 21 ranked last week. They're going to jump a couple this week. They're going to be in the teens. And the way that this thing works,
Navy's undefeated too. Navy's going to help. I know that's weird to say, but Navy's still undefeated, 5-0. So I think that's going to help.
So we just keep creeping. We're going to keep winning, and people are going to lose, and we're going to move up one more spot. We're going to move up 2 more spots. But shit, if we're 18-19, we've got 6 weeks left to go.
Yep.
Regular season.
Yep.
6 weeks left to go.
USC didn't play this week, lost to Illinois last game out, but because they didn't play,
we got 7 games left to go. You win 7, and you keep winning, people keep losing. We're gonna move up a spot. Next thing you know, they're gonna say, if Miami and Texas A&M continue to win, they don't even got to go undefeated, but they just continue to win a lot. Quality losses. I hate to say the word quality loss, but quality losses.
Yeah, and look, while, again, there's no moral victory, the Texas A&M game, everyone's going to point to the play that ultimately won the game should have been holding, right? That's holding. You tackled the D-tackle. That's holding. And then Miami on the road. Miami, Carson Beck, say what you want to say about Carson Beck. He might be the real deal, bro. And he's surrounded by some really good receivers. The freshman and number 7, freshman number 10, the other kid, number 7, who had the one-handed catch to end the first half against Notre Dame. He's surrounded by some really good recievers and a hellified defense. That number 4, I can't think of his name right now. He's a grown man. So yeah, we shall see. Uh, Never too many times. It just it's impossible to do it too many times. So I put it on the screen again. Rest in peace, Kyren Lacy. I hope that he continues to be vindicated. And it is what it is in the sense that as a dad, man, it's like it breaks your heart to know that you had to bury your child. So wanted to give him one more acknowledgement, and hopefully the judicial process will show that indeed he was free of guilt. With that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats, rats, dogs, and frogs, this has been our Sports Dad episode of the Ball Hog Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. A few businessmen get together to discuss sports in entertaining fashion. We'll be right back next week. Might not be Friday. We're going to do what we do because we are sports dads. We got commitments. We got to be places. We got to do things. But like we ask you every week, even after we are out of here for the day, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anyone that you know. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast. This has been our labor of love. Share it with somebody else. Enjoy NFL Sunday, y'all. With that, we is out. Peace.